Hi, I'm Ben Town, founder of MultiPortal. Today, I'll be running you through a pre-release demo of the platform showing you where development is currently at. If you don't already know, MultiPortal is a multi-tenanted overlay for Proxmox, where we provide you with the centralized management of multiple different Proxmox environments and allow you to provide resources down to resellers and their tenants for them to manage, all within a simple user interface. Multiportal has been built by a team who run extensive infrastructure as a service offerings, but were unhappy with what is currently commercially available within the market. Multiportal is still in development, but rapidly moving towards an alpha release. If you're interested in looking at Multiportal, please feel free to reach out to us via our website. We also have our Reddit forum, and you can reach out to there, provide feedback, or suggest ideas. Okay, on to the demo.
So at the moment, we're logged in as the service provider. From the service provider, we can see pretty much everything, and it's where we do all of our major configuration. For this demo, I'll be using the service provider view, but you can log into each of the different levels within MultiPortal as well. So MultiPortal has been built with a multi-layered approach. So we have a service provider, resellers, tenants, virtual data centers, and then underneath that, they then contain virtual machines. MultiPortal has been designed to connect into multiple different Proxmox environments so that you can have a single pane of glass for tenant management and for them to manage their virtual machines, even if you've got multiple different data centers. So the service provider is where you're going to configure all of those sort of data center system setup. It's also going to be where you configure your API. MultiPortal has been built from the ground up with API in mind. So everything that I show in this demo can actually be done from the API. It can also be used for provisioning. It can be used for getting billing data, all those sort of things. So within this view, we can actually see our resellers. When we go into a reseller, we have the concept of users. Now, resellers, service providers, and tenants all have a user level, and users can be created either locally or they can be connected into SAML for things like Azure Active Directory integration, so that you can load the users from that level or that system and then assign them a role within MultiPortal. Great for single sign-on, those sort of things. Each layer has their own user database effectively, or their own SAML integration. So the service provider can have their own, and each tenant or each reseller can also have their own. From the reseller view here, we can see the tenants that we've got. We've got a couple here already created. When we go into the tenant, we're presented again with that user level, and like I mentioned, you can actually impersonate a user and log in as them for troubleshooting or whatever it might be. But we also have the concept of a virtual data center. A virtual data center is a pool of resources. So unlike Azure and AWS, where we have a instance base or a per VM base, we use the virtual data center approach, right? There's two types of virtual data center. We've got allocation, which is your quota-based virtual data center, and then you've got your pay-as-you-go, which is your traditional cloud model of hourly billing. So in this case, all of these are allocation-based, and so you can see the actual capacity limits for the quota. So we use CPU cores and per gig of RAM for memory, and then we have a concept of storage policies, which you can create as a service provider and assign underlying storage to. When I go into the virtual data center, I'll be presented with the view that the user will see. So this is more of a tenant view, but again, we're logged in as a service provider, so we can see a few extra options. From here, we can see all of our virtual machines, we can see our resource allocation and things like that. As a service provider, we can go in and we can actually increase this quota. So if we wanted to assign more CPU cores, or if we wanted to give more memory, or we could even add additional storage policies or provide more storage quota from here. And again, all of these things can be done from the API as well. You can see here this virtual data center has all three storage policies assigned. And this concept of a storage policy is really just a friendly name for underlying storage. You can group multiple different data stores or LUNs, SANs, however you've got it configured, into a storage policy. Each of those can then be presented back to the tenant as a friendly name. We've got gold, silver, and bronze, but you could call it whatever you want. We'll automatically choose the data store underneath with the least used storage or the most free space when we provision virtual machines. And a virtual machine can have each of its different disks, actually all virtual disks, on different storage policies. So they could have their C drive on, or their disk 1 on gold, disk 2 on silver, and so on and so forth. Or again, whatever you call those storage policies. We can create virtual machines. We can create them from a blank machine, or we can go in and we can create them from templates. Any existing virtual machine can actually be created from a template, right? So it can be converted into a template. And we have the concept of a public template, public catalog, and then a tenant level catalog. So the service provider can publish things like ISOs and VM templates, whereas the tenant can also create their own and actually have their own catalog of sorts, upload their own ISOs, etc. From a virtual machine perspective, when we go into the virtual machine, we can actually see, we can do basic power management and whatnot from this view, but when we dig into it, we can actually see a lot more details of the VM. So we can see the resources it's assigned to, the disk layout, the CPU usage, memory, etc., whatever's happening with the disk setup. You can see here that we've got a disk on gold and we've got a disk on silver. We can attach ISOs. We can edit the VM, change the resources, add extra virtual disk, remove virtual disks, so on and so forth. We can also access the console, right? So if the VM is powered on, if the VM is powered off, I should say, that some of these options do change. But just like Proxmox, if a tenant's logging in though, they're only going to see their resources that are allocated to them, right? So all those permissions are locked down. The user system from Proxmox's perspective runs, like I mentioned, within MultiPortal, right? So when you connect each of the environments into, and I'll just actually jump over to that. When we connect a data center, we consider a data center an individual Proxmox environment. You can have one, you can have more than one. But again, it gives that user a central pane of glass for managing all of their virtual machines. From the tenant view, when they see, and I'll just jump back to the tenant view, when they see their virtual data centers, these virtual data centers can be on different data centers. And again, a data center is a Proxmox environment. And that really means that if you've got different geographic data centers, they can manage all of them from the single pane of glass. All right. Now, from a networking perspective, we allow the tenants to create two different types of networks. We allow them to create an external network, which uses a traditional VLAN within Proxmox, or an internal network, which uses a VXLAN. If you needed to connect networking between different environments, the service provider would have to do that outside of MultiPortal. They'd have to trunk that, and every environment would be a little bit different. But yeah, the user can also manage all that networking from within their environment. As for what we have coming up, we have a bunch of UI improvements that we're currently working on. And we also have the backup integration that we plan to make available within MultiPortal as well, taking advantage of the Proxmox backup offerings that it's got. So you can create snapshots, you can create backup schedules and those sort of things. So yeah, that's a quick demo of where we're at with MultiPortal. The next step for us is that we are working towards a demo release on our website. If you register your interest on our website, we'll actually be sending out a link that you can go and create an account and have a play with what I've presented to you yourself. And then shortly after that, we will be making MultiPortal available as an alpha release. And the alpha release will allow you to download the Linux appliance and spin it up within your own environment and actually connect it into your own Proxmox environment and have a play. If you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out to us via our website. We also have a Reddit forum. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear ideas. If you want to see certain bits and pieces, please feel free to reach out to us. Thanks.